Okay, welcome to AZ Cactus Tack. Today I'm going to share a unboxing video with you. I know some of you like those, some of you don't. But this is a firearm I've been waiting for, a pretty long time to get. It's a piece that I wanted to add to the collection for a very long time. And got a call from the importer that, he was shipping to my FFL. Finally arrived at the FFL, went through all the paperwork, and was able to bring it home. So I thought I'd share the unboxing with you, so let's get right to it. Let's unbox this bad boy and let's talk about it. Okay, I thought I'd just turn it around and open it, and then I'll change the cameras around and get some better views. But let's sort of open this one up. And all right, so this is a SIG Sauer 553P long barrel. I think the barrel is about 13.5 inches, semi-auto, of course, but that's what it is. And I'll go ahead and change some cameras around, and then we'll sort of go through what's in the box, and then we'll spend a little more detail looking at the rifle and getting a little bit better view on it. So let me change things around and we'll get right back to it. Here we have it. Looks like we've got one mag. It's 30 rounds. It's a nice translucent mag. The color, sort of a brownish green, sort of matches this. It's pretty nice. We'll put that over here. No manuals or anything like that. I guess that's sort of the trend. You do get a little flyer. Flyer is in Swiss. Looks like they've got some interesting red firearm there, which is looking pretty cool. And on the back, you've got your safety written out in English and German, I would imagine. I think the Swiss speak German, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong on that. And then there's a thing you can do to go download the manual and reference that, which to break this down, I'm definitely going to have to do. This, I'm going to assume, is a cleaning kit. We'll open that as soon as we get the rifle out and everything else, and we'll put it on the table without the case. This has to be a cleaning kit. This looks just like a HK cleaning kit. So we'll put that over there. And then we have the rifle. This is a 553P or 553 pistol. It's chambered in 556 by 45. And they actually have a couple of different calibers that you can get. They have one in 7.62 by 39, which they call 553R for, I think, Russian. And they also have a 300 blackout, which is pretty cool. So first impressions, this thing's heavy. It's definitely, you can tell it's built like a brick shit house, man. It is not light. This is like a battleship gray, and with this, I'm going to call it field green, or that OD green or something, but it's actually sort of a cool color combo on it. Battleship gray, that's the best way that I can describe it. It feels like a battleship. It sort of looks like a battleship to me. So, all right, we'll get this out and close it up, and then we'll just look at it in a little more detail. Why did I want to add this to the collection? Well, I've got a growing AK collection. And as you start to get into the world of AKs, you start hearing about this particular rifle from SIG Sauer, Switzerland. And before I get into that, I mean, for those of you that may not know, this is SIG Sauer, Switzerland. It's a pretty confusing corporate structure, if you ask me. But at one point, there were 3 SIG Sauer companies. There was the Swiss company, which is the original company. I think back in the 1800s, they basically made wagons. And then somehow that evolved into becoming an arms manufacturer. They eventually partnered with a company in Germany called, I think it was J.P. Sauer and Son. And so SIG was just the original name. It's a abbreviation for SIG. And I think that was something to do with building wagons at some point. But they partnered with JP Sauer, and then basically joined name SIG Sauer, and then the American distributor, you know, became a company in its own right, and that's the one that probably most of us know to a day, and that is SIG Sauer. That's pretty much what we know. I believe its official corporate name might be SIG Sauer USA or SIG Sauer Americas. The German company eventually went away, I think in 2020. And what you have now is you have a holding company. I think it's called L&O Holding, and that sits on top of SIG Sauer Switzerland and SIG Sauer USA. But SIG Sauer USA is a separate company. It's a separate entity. It's really not related to SIG Sauer Switzerland pretty much in any way that I can see. They make, wholly different items. This particular rifle is made by SIG Sauer Switzerland for the Swiss military. And then they basically produce a few rifles for export into other markets like the US. And so these come in very limited quantities and only a few times a year. They're imported by SAN Imports. A lot of you may know them as JDI Imports out of Texas. They're the sole distributor, from what I know, in the US. And, you get yourself on the wait list and you wait. And if and when they come in, you get notified. That's sort of how it works. The whole thing reminds me, if you guys are familiar with the Seinfeld episode of The Soup Nazi, the protocol of ordering and no one can deviate. I mean, it's sort of like that. You just, there's just so few of these coming in. If you don't like the process, get out of line. So back to what I was originally saying. Why did I want to add this to the collection? And, these are not inexpensive rifles. They're pretty expensive. And it's really, when you look about it, a lot of people describe it when an AK meets a Rolex. I've heard that in a lot of different places. So I'm going to field strip this thing and we'll look at the operating system. And it's very similar to a AK. But it's been some, magic dust has been added from Switzerland, from the Alps, and the precision in this rifle is pretty extraordinary. So with that, we'll turn this around. We'll go into a little bit deeper detail. I'll grab one of the cameras and just sort of walk through this as I'm seeing it really for the first time myself. Okay, I went and I downloaded the manual, printed it off, and sort of looked through it because I have no idea how to break this thing and field strip it. In the manual, it does say that you absolutely do need to field strip and clean because there is some packing grease in it. So that will be interesting. And definitely do not take what I do as the proper means to field strip this thing because I've never done it before and had to read about it, so I'm sure you can find some other sources. Let's just take a quick look at the cleaning kit. They give you, some cleaning rods. I actually forget what that is for. That's for something. This is a, greasing brush. So they give you some of that, which is nice. Put that back. Again, very precisely packaged in here. Very nice. And wow. Okay. Boy, they give you a lot of shit in here. Look at this. From Switzerland, they even start you out with some free oil. There you go. How many manufacturers do that? They might give you the bottle, but they never give you the oil. And wow, they give you some white grease too. All right, well, hey, the amount of money you spend on this thing, why not? Okay, so
looks like we've got a little, a little patch jag right here. Yeah, I guess that you can, put on there. And looks like this might be a bore brush, probably barrel brush. I'm not sure what that's for, and I'm not sure. Oh, maybe this is for cleaning the gas, the valve and stuff like that. So I'll have to look back at all the stuff that they give you. I didn't really glance at it that much. And then here you've got a pull through system. Looks like some paracord with that. So, all right, so that's sort of the cleaning kit. Very nice, pretty complete, which is nice to see. They want to keep their precise weaponry in fine working order, and they don't trust the Americans to go out there and get off our asses and get the proper gear. Okay, so let's just sort of go through this in a little more detail. Just starting at the back here, obviously that's a safety. I mean, safety is definitely pretty stout. I'm not sure what that white circle is. I have a feeling that it's probably some type of a filler, that maybe there was a pin there or something, and maybe that was related to it being in full auto. I don't know. If some of you do know, feel free to chime in on the comments. That's just what I'm guessing. But definitely it looks like in this lower receiver here that something was going in there, and so they filled that with a patch. It got something on 24. NB24. I'm not really sure what that is. Sand Imports, Frisco, Texas, 6 Hour AG, made in Switzerland. AG is the designation that it's a Swiss company. We've got chambered in 556x45. It's the 553P, and you go on down here. Unfortunately, some of these come with a 4-position gas valve. Mine only is a 2-position gas valve, and unfortunately, I think this is an integrated barrel. This hump right here is for the grenade launcher. They're big into launching grenades in Switzerland, from what I gather, and it fits over that, and this is sort of a hump, I guess, to keep it sort of locked in. But this flash hider here is integral to the barrel. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like you can really suppress this. There are some threads inside here, inside this muzzle device. So maybe there's an adapter that you can buy that might enable you to put on a different muzzle brake or suppressor host. I don't know, but there are threads inside of this thing. So we'll see. Obviously, that looks like for a sling. Again, I'm not too sure about this. I couldn't find anything on my quick glance in the manual. I'm going to assume this is for a bayonet. There, right there, if I had to guess. And then this is the gas valve, and we'll go in for deeper. Looking at the top, this pick rail, I don't see any screws on top. So I'm going to assume that this is welded or somehow riveted into place. I mean, right off the bat, guys, this is like, when I say it's built like a brick shit house, it is really hefty, man. It is built solid. This might be the Apocalypse rifle, if I had to take a guess. So we've got a sight here that flips up, small one. And then you've got an integral sight that comes back. Now, they do have a version. I don't think it has the full rail like this, but they do have a version that comes with, if you're familiar with the HK, MP5, that diopter sight is what they call it. And then it has a similar, deal like down here, or rather, I think a hooded sight or something, if I remember the HK. But they have a version that looks just like the HK rear sight. I think it's called a diopter sight, but I might be wrong on that. You've got your sling hooks on the back here. Going around, you've got a charging handle. This is like a rubber gasket. So let's just, yeah. Okay, so the charging handle, these are split in two right here, and the charging handle just goes straight in. So I guess if you're designing this thing for mountain fighting, which is what you do in Switzerland, particularly in a lot of snow, you don't want a lot of water and shit getting inside this. This is really well sealed, I have to say. If you go along the lines of the AK meets a Rolex, yeah, this is like, they're like rivets holding in, little tiny rivets or little tiny screws holding in this rubber gasket, and this rubber gasket is sealed tight. I mean, it's sealed tight. And I'll definitely get some close-up vid of this whole thing you guys can see, but man, that is like, yeah. Definitely takes some strength to pull this back. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so if I get a better position on it, that goes back. You got a safety on this, so a little bit of ambidextrous. I'm going to assume that's the bolt lock or the bolt catch right here. Yep. Now these are your pins. I looked at the manual really quick. You got to push these two pins out to separate these two halves. Again, I'm not a metallurgist, but I'm going to say this is stamped steel, maybe. Or if it's not steel, it's an alloy of some sort, but it's not a flimsy aluminum, and it's a lot more heft than like an AK stamped receiver. I mean, there's a lot of heft here. So I'm going to say it's a stamped steel. I don't know the millimeter or the size of it. This is the trigger. So let me just make sure this bag board is clear. Yeah, clear and safe. Let's see. Okay, so I'm feeling there's two walls here. There's the first one. There's the second one, and it's right up against, this is like a plunger, I think. Right up against that. That's your second one. And you continue to push it in. The plunger goes in after it releases the hammer. Okay, it's a lot of travel coming back to the reset would be my first impression. This nut looks like you can move it, so I would assume that you could probably adjust that to whatever you want, I guess. I'd have to look in the manual on that more. I didn't see anything on trigger adjustment, but this does move. I'll just leave it set up the way that the factory did it, but definitely there's two stages. And a lot of travel for the reset coming back. So maybe if you bring this out further, you won't have as much travel on that reset. Magazine release. Let's just try the magazine here. Yeah, just a typical AK mag style. I think these are probably proprietary to this rifle. Okay, a little stiff, but yeah, okay. That gets in. Hand guard, looks like you could probably attach some pick rail here. Right there. These are some vent holes. I would imagine this thing gets hot if it's like an AK. And then the pistol grip. Looks like you could take this off. Oh man, okay, you gotta push really hard. All right, nothing inside of there, but you got a little bit of storage inside your pistol grip. Pistol grip feels good, man. Yeah, definitely feels good. I mean, I have to come back and sort of scrunch down to get this safety going, but I can totally operate it with my thumb on the other side, but I have to bring it back into safe on this side. I can't get enough leverage with my thumb on the other side. Maybe you guys with bigger hands can do that, but for me, I'm going to have to work both hands with this for sure. All right, so Again, I'll capture some video going into more detail. This is the gas valve. There's a detent on this gas valve. So, all right, it looks like you can turn it. And I think in the manual it said if it goes clockwise, that's for an adverse condition. And then if you go back to the center, that is normal. And then I think to get it out, you press this detent and you turn it this way and it should come out. And then of course it's in the pistol configuration. I will say the downside that I've found so far, aside from not being able to suppress this from what I can see, unless I'm mistaken, there's not that much aftermarket support for these things. Of course, everything's pretty much in Europe. There are a couple of companies that make some different rails. I think B&T does something too. But everything's coming through the importer here in the States, and everything's back ordered, and everything takes time. So I've ordered a pick rail, back in for this thing, so I don't want to SBR it. I think when you look at the stock for this thing, it's a really cool looking stock. I just don't want to go through the hassle of doing the SBR. I like to keep my options as flexible as possible. So I'm going to have to get a pick rail and then get a brace for it. But again, everything sort of takes time, and everything's super expensive. I mean, there is nothing cheap about this rifle. Nothing. Every attachment's extremely expensive. So the magazines are very expensive. Everything revolving around this is expensive. It is not cheap. So, all right. So I'll grab some more detailed coverage so you guys can get some zoomed in views. Hopefully I've overlaid some of that in the final edit. And then we'll sort of go in and attempt to field strip this thing. Okay, let's try to field strip this thing. Okay, I want to show you this one. Call it a feature or whatever. This is like what they call it, a mitten trigger guard, man. So if you're fighting in the mountains of Switzerland and you've got big fat mittens on, you just move that to the side so you can get your big fat mittens in there. I thought that was actually pretty cool. Very cool. All right, so it says that I've got to push this in from this side, and okay. So you probably won't be able to see that. I'll try to show this camera, but if you press, there's little detents on either side. So if you guys are familiar with the SIG 553P and you have to use that special tool to push in, this is a similar system in that the detents are on the outside versus on the inside. And you press this and these detents go in and out. Interesting. Okay, so let's try to do that. Let's see if it's as much of a pain in the ass as the HK. Okay. All right. Okay, well the handguards are already coming off. All right. Okay. Hey, success. Yay. Now, this charging bolt, I know this has to come out. There's something you got to press, like this presses in. Okay, and that presses in. Sorry to flag the internet, but you can see it's all disassembled here. So it's basically, it puts tension on this charging handle. And this charging handle, it's got some thick rubber on the end. So I just got to remember which way that this goes in. So I'm gonna put that off like that and it'll go in like that. So, okay. Let's see. All right, so that lifts out. I guess you can get some pick rail on the bottom too. I'm assuming that's what that for, unless they're drain holes. I don't know, but it's on the side. Okay, you know, it's fruitless for me to try to keep the serial number confidential. Everything on this rifle is serialized. All right, so this looks like the piston system here.
Wow, that's pretty smooth, man. Whoa. Okay, that's definitely not AK smooth. This thing, I can see why they say it's where a Rolex meets an AK. This looks like an AK, but man, the tolerances on this thing have got to be insane. That is really smooth. All right, so I'm just going to assume we pull this bad boy right out of the back. And yeah, this looks a lot like an AK bolt. Yeah, it really does. Oh my God. Man, if you guys could feel this, this is like machined to an amazing degree of precision when you pull this bolt out. Yeah, I totally get what they're saying. That is wild. That is pretty precise shit right there. Okay, so heavily packed with grease, so I can see why they say you want to clean it, but I'll just leave this stuff in um, right now because I don't want to lose it. This is my first time ever doing this, so okay, now we got to get this thing, put that right there. We got to get this thing. So there's a detent right here. I think I just turned, yeah, okay, so that wasn't that bad. Yeah, okay, this is turning the whole assembly. Okay, and it just pops right out. There's a notch. All right, there's a notch cut into this piston, so I've got to make sure that when I put it back in, that notch is facing that way. Does this come out? Yeah, okay, this comes out. Okay, all right, there we go. All right, that definitely, you can see where that's been inspired by the AK, but it's been, I'd say, taken a level higher in its engineering. Definitely. All right, we'll put that right there. Okay, this comes out too. I don't know. Let's see. Should I pull it out? I guess. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's packed in some grease too. Interesting. All right. We'll put that right there. This is the tube assembly. So, yeah. All right. So if I were to put this here, sort of looks like an AK. It's different. I mean, definitely different, man. You know, definitely different. But definitely, yeah, no, it definitely goes this way. Okay, it definitely is. You can see the DNA for sure. But the level of refinement is, I would say, at a much higher level. But we'll keep this stuff together there. We'll put the bolt right here. And we'll put the lower. Just want to look into this. And again, I'll show you in more detail, guys, all the stuff inside here. But I'm seeing this for the first time too, so I'm just sort of checking it out as I'm going through here. I mean, there are a lot of springs. There are heavy duty springs in there, you know, you can see in there. Again, I don't know, maybe some light will help. You're probably not picking that up. Might be too. We'll do some dedicated video on that. But those are some, I've never seen springs like that. I mean, I'm not a mechanic, so I'm never going to be like, oh man, everyone has springs like that. And these are just some pretty heavy duty springs. And okay, so there's the bolt.
bolt catch right there. So definitely bolt holes will open, I think. All right. So what we'll do is we'll get this on the bench and we'll disassemble it a little bit more. I think what I should probably do is, I think this is the firing pin here. And if I recall looking at the manual really quick, maybe not. Thought I could get that out. Well, let me see if I can get a punch. I think this is the retaining pin for the firing pin. Let me see if I can get a punch. I thought the manual looked like you could push it out with this, but I'm going to need to look more closely. But if, probably to properly disassemble it, there's the bolt face on that. Again, AK reminiscent, just a little different. And yes, there's grease in there too, man. I can see why they say, if you guys do ever get one of these things, definitely follow the manual. There's like grease everywhere. So you definitely want to clean this thing. Okay, so I'll find a solution for the firing pin and we'll take it from there. We'll get this on the bench and we'll start to clean it up and look at it in a little more detail. Okay, off camera, I basically got a punch and there's this little, tiny pin right here. It was just, a little, I don't want to say stuck, just, brand new. Do be careful. This firing pin is under spring tension. This is a pretty hefty spring. I mean, it just goes back to everything about this gun is built like this. This is the apocalypse rifle, man. I mean, this combined with a Mark 23 pistol, I think anyone would be set for the friggin' apocalypse. Look at this. Look at a spring on this thing. It's just like major spring. So just be careful. If you guys do knock that out, this thing, luckily I had my hand as I was, trying to get that pin out and, it hit the hand, but this thing could certainly shoot out. And always, whenever you're dealing with this stuff, make sure you're wearing some glasses or shit like that. So, which I am. All right. So we got that. We will get this thing, get this upper receiver on the bench and start to clean that out, clean out the barrel, make sure there's nothing in there. Then we'll start working and cleaning this stuff and then we'll reassemble it. Apologies for the main camera. It did run out of some battery power, so I'm not sure when it did, but I'll make sure that we get plenty of detail, footage and all this stuff. Get this stuff back. I think the last thing I took apart was all this gas sort of assembly. So maybe that's where I start. Okay, that's not, oh, there we go. All right, so that is that. I know that this goes like this. Okay. I think I've got to adjust this a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I think this is right. That is the adverse condition. And that's the positive. Okay, so I think we got that back together. I'll just put a little e-socks. I like this e-sock stuff, man. It's just just make sure, put a little bit of that on. It's more like a protectant. Not that I have to be super concerned about rust here, but you know, it still happens, man. Still happens. All right, so I think we got the gas working. That looks correct. That piston looks like it's in the right shape. Now, let's see. I think it's time to get this bolt back in. So let's turn it. All right. Maybe I'm on the wrong. Okay, no, this is right. It's going in the right way there. So maybe this bolt's got to be. Is okay, there we go. Gravity, as they say, is your friend. And that is going super nice, man. Really nice. Uh-oh. There we go. Yeah, that is, man, that is like glass. All right. Come off there. And just making sure I have grease on the parts where it needs. And yeah, we got some there, but we don't need it on this side as much. So I'm gonna wipe off a little bit on that, but keep it like there's just this little ledge that it likes to ride on. Okay, so we got that put back together. This is the bottom, and this has got to be the top. Nope. All right, let's see. What am I? All right, maybe the top goes on first. Okay, top. Okay, top goes on first. Lesson learned. All right. Top goes on first on that. And here comes this. Pull that out. Okay, now. Make sure that, okay, this is already in there. Why is this being stubborn on this? All right, let's. All right, that's weird. Try just a little persuasion, maybe. Oh, something like this. Maybe there's something. Okay, maybe there's something with the handguard. There we go. Okay, I guess this handguard was just out of alignment. Okay, I think we've got pretty much everything back together. Lubed up. Now comes the $1 million function check. That's what we need. See? Here we go. All right. think we do this. I think that goes in like that. Okay. Okay, there we go. You have to push this in, and when you pull it out a little bit, this will snap back up. So if you guys are ever cleaning this thing, you got to make sure that this gets snapped up. I just noticed that, and I pulled it out a little bit and that snapped back. Otherwise it was sort of locked down. So I think that's in there pretty good. That's on safe, so safe's working. Let's put it on fire. Okay, let's put it back on safe. And just a little bit of oil dripping out of there. Wipe that up. Yep, safety's working. Okay. I think we're good, man. I think we figured it out. Got everything going back together on this. And there we have it. The SIG Sauer Switzerland 553P LB long barrel. So there we have it. I'll look forward to taking this out to the range and doing a will it fire video, and we'll call it a day from there. Thank you very much for joining.